Ripley.
And I'm John.
And this is Comicsplaining.
Wait.
No, you have to do that.
Fuck. And this is Comicsplaining?
Yeah. Okay, Han. Hi, I'm Ripley.
And I'm John. And this is Comicsplaining. Ooh, that's
No,
Ripley.
wait, that's not what it was. I say it and then you have to say the show where we're thinking out of the box.
Oh, shit.
Hi, I'm Ripley.
And I'm John.
And this is Comicsplaining.
The one where we're doing it out of the box?
The one where we're thinking out of the box.
Fuck.
Roll it again. Fuck it, we'll do it live!
It's a good thing y'all are moving. The neighbors must hate that.
And that's it. That's the intro. Because we were talking about that fucking Bill O'Reilly thing the other day.
Oh, God.
Hi! So, we are recording without Candace. Candace is not feeling well. Candace's nose is currently exploding, so...
It's not like the rest of us are doing great either. Apparently, we just have higher resistance to dust than Candace does.
I'm built different.
I'm built wrong!
Our original stinger was intended to be the show where we're thinking out of the box because our apartment is currently overrun with boxes. As we kind of mentioned last time around, which was quite a while ago, so you'd be forgiven for not remembering, we are going to be moving before too long. That will probably cause at least a few difficulties in recording schedule, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Or burn it.
Fuck you. For now, we're just gonna keep going. So we've got some of our stuff packed in boxes, and we have also pulled our Christmas tree out of boxes because I will take any excuse to have Christmas lights and just, I love lights and decorations.
It was quite a look to see all these boxes of things getting moved in, out of, and into, and whatever. And also the Christmas tree is there, but you're moving away. What the heck? This is confusing.
Well, we don't know the exact date of when we're moving out, so that's the thing that's going on.
I mean, understandable.
So, anyway, we are recording without Candace today. Our little Bill O'Reilly thing was not actually intentional, but if you join us over on Discord, we were talking about Bill O'Reilly, you know, if that's the kind of impetus you needed to join our Discord server.
Do you remember Bill O'Reilly?
Yeah, remember Bill O'Reilly, sexual predator?
I don't remember Bill O'Reilly very well anymore. I think that's probably for the best.
My dad used to like Bill O'Reilly. He thought he was smart. He was a teacher. He was a teacher once upon a time. That is true.
What did he teach?
Social studies, I think.
Oh, God, he must have been the worst.
We're gonna get started. It's been a while, but actually probably not too far off. We're actually doing better than the people who were actually reading X-Men at the time, considering it was still coming out every other month, and we've only missed, it's only been 3 weeks for us.
So we're still, oh God, this was still that, oh.
So we're actually beating release schedule. You want to tell me what happened last time on X-Men?
Something.
Wow,
Misty
nailed
Knight
it.
fought a shark.
You have skipped to the last story, so we started off with an angry Scotsman yelling at an angry Irishman.
Oh yeah, they were finally leaving the whole
leprechaun situation.
Yeah, the cringe leprechaun.
After throwing Sean's cousin into the sea.
Okay, so they threw him into the sea, and then the Juggernaut left.
Followed. He went looking for Tom.
He just jumped in.
Did
he just jumped into the water, didn't he?
Dove into the sea, yeah.
But
that was actually several-ish episodes ago, so you want to tell me what happened last time?
Let's see. The two parts I remember is the Star Trek parody.
That did happen, but that's also not this issue.
Dang.
They were going across the harbor because Moira left the oven on and called Sean to go turn the oven off because when she called home to her assistant, Jamie, he was throwing a party or something, not answering the phone, and so you gotta send the neighbors in, send in your boyfriend to check out the situation, fix things up.
Okay, but how far is that from where they were?
I mean, they were in Scotland.
And
they were in Ireland, and they went up to northern Scotland.
That's, you know, a couple 100 miles. It's fine.
I mean, they've got transit situations well in line up there.
I know, but going to turn off the oven, this is a little...
I mean, they're closer than Moira is.
That is true. That is true. And this is eons before they have any teleporters on hand.
Right. So, they went across the harbor, but what happened then?
Did they get attacked by alien?
No, the boat exploded. The boat exploded, and they were getting attacked by the boat.
They were?
Yep. And they survived that and crawled up on the shore, where they found out that the reason the boat attacked them was Magneto.
Huh. I have no memory of this. None.
Well, they went up to fight Magneto, and Magneto started clowning on him. And then Scott and Moira showed up, and then they realized once they found Jamie that it was a trap, and Magneto had come to draw them all away from New York to leave Xavier unprotected when Eric the Red came for him. So they bailed on that fight pretty quickly and headed back to New York. And Eric the Red was just kind of hanging out outside Jean's apartment.
As he does, apparently?
Yep. And then we had a B story featuring Magneto and his...
This was Magneto and his past.
Magneto's past, correct?
I remember that. Why do I remember that? Why am I able to remember that? But I have no memory of Magneto baiting the X-Men away from New York.
Because it was very emotional.
It was. It genuinely was very emotional. I had feelings.
So what was up with Magneto's story?
Well, he survived the Holocaust.
Yep.
He found love.
Mm-hmm. In the camps, actually.
But it's more than that. He's reminiscing. This is him remembering his past.
Right.
And he found love in the camps, as you said. But they survived. They got lucky. And then they found a new home and tried to make a life for themselves until, there was a fire.
Well, there was. We did skip over the Soviet foreman guy.
There was a Soviet foreman guy, but he was so used to this shit that he didn't even say anything.
Yeah, but Magneto realized he had power.
Yes. But he
was threatening the Soviet guy.
But he wasn't really going to show them off once he realized, oh shit, I have powers.
Yeah.
And the Soviet foreman guy didn't really react to it. They never actually say it, but I got the feeling.
I know, they
not
were in
another
Ukraine.
one.
They were in Ukraine, as we've realized with the news this past year. They're just built different.
They are. So the thing is, then I guess there's a fire in his house because he's got kids and they're gonna die.
In the inn that they were staying at, Magneto's wife and daughter were still inside,
and they're allowed to burn to their deaths.
Well, Magneto manages to get Magda out.
He gets one of them, but not everyone.
Yeah, nope. He was gonna go back for his daughter, but this is the reason we were talking about
the Soviet guy, because instead of freaking the fuck out, he called the authorities.
Yep.
Because apparently this is just a thing in the Soviet Union. They're used to it, which is unnerving.
Need to teach some snitches get stitches.
Well, considering who we're dealing with, he's the kind of guy who would teach people snitches get stitches. He isn't allowed to save his kid.
Yep.
And worst off, his wife thinks he's the monster.
Right, because he just explodes out at all the guards and just kills everyone except for himself and Magda.
Yeah. But in his reverie, he notices a fire. And although he says, no, I am the bad guy now, he still goes and saves some people from a burning building.
Yep, a lady and her daughter.
And he tells them to tell everyone that Magneto did this.
Magneto was here. Deuces.
He made it a point to make sure everyone remembered. God, by the 80s, they really were, changing his reputation, weren't they?
Yes.
Like,
He's a very different character.
I know these days he's somewhere in the moral gray zone. He's barely a villain.
Well, that doesn't even take. As soon as Chris really gets into him, it's almost already. He becomes almost instantly kind of a character with more nuance and depth, and it's harder to put him on the morality scale. And
here I just thought it was the Reagan administration proving him right. I mean, that's the meme, by the way.
Well, we're only halfway through this. We've gotten through the Magneto story. What happened next?
Space aliens.
Space aliens did happen.
Well, one of them's a Star Trek parody.
Yep, they were following the princess.
The woman in Charles's dreams.
Yep, the princess of the Emperor named Lilandra.
Now, this I can remember from the TV show. Spoilers. Yes, there's a reason we stopped watching the old 90s cartoon. Because spoilers.
Yep, because it was
too good.
It was too good. It's not all entirely accurate in here, but it was too good.
So apparently, turns out his dreams of a woman were a real woman.
Yep. So she comes touching down. She's headed for him. The military, the Star Trek parody, is following her, and then they realize that
it's Earth.
Tucky, we gotta get the fuck out of here. We're in a bad neighborhood.
These people fought off Galactus twice!
4 times! Yeah, so they jump. Meanwhile, Eric the Red is hanging out at the X Mansion.
Because he's been, waiting for this?
Yeah, he's kind of... the whole goal was to stop Lilandra from getting to Charles.
Failed step 1.
So he then decides that he's going to lure Firelord, one of Galactus's former heralds, into... He's going to dupe him into fighting off the X-Men, and that way Charles will be unprotected.
Sure.
And he can deal with the situation.
This sounds like a bad plan.
So Firelord shows up and fights everybody, but then once they come by and he swears I'm gonna kill Charles Xavier since you're my new good buddy, Eric. And then he starts some shit with the Phoenix and promptly gets chucked into Jersey.
Yeah, I was about to say, that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
That part sounds... starting shit with the Phoenix tends not to go well for people who start said shit.
But Eric manages to kidnap Lilandra and go through the gate. But Phoenix powers the gate back up, and all the X-Men follow hot on her trail.
Did we even see what happened after that?
Nope, we just saw them leave.
Oh god, that's a heck of a cliff to hang on for 2 months!
Yup. And then we had one last story where, as you said, Misty Knight fights a shark.
It's all because Jean feels death or something. Or dying.
Yep, they're hanging out at the beach. She's angsting out over her current condition.
And there's a very complicated relationship in-gone happening here.
And then Jean senses a death, and so Misty and Jean come to the rescue.
It turns out it's dolphins.
But Misty Knight also fights a shark.
Because Jean just kind of goes and leaves Misty, and Misty eventually thinks, actually, Jean might need some help.
I like it, though. I like the idea that the Phoenix just kind of makes you weird.
That is pretty weird.
That's something I like, that it's just all of a sudden you're just really weird.
She didn't think to mention, it's dolphins. Don't worry about it. We're good. No, seriously. I'm just gonna go and take care of some dolphin business because I'm the Phoenix now.
So our first issue is going to be X-Men 105 from March of 1977. Written by Chris Claremont, pencils by Dave Cockrum, inks by Bob Layton, colors by Andy Yankus, and letters by Tom Orzechowski. As usual, we're going to be using the classic X-Men version of the story, so we'll be featuring some additional pages with pencils by Chuck Patton, inks by Dave Green, colors by Evelyn Stein and Michael Higgins, and letters by Joe Rosen and Diana Albers. 3 new names for us here: Chuck Patton, Dave Green, and Michael Higgins. Chuck Patton's another black creator, something that actually comes out in his work, something we like to see. Apparently one of the things he's really well known for is his time penciling Justice League of America, which included a new multicultural swath of heroes.
Nice.
But after his time in the comics industry, he actually moved over to working in animation on projects like G.I. Joe and Teen Titans. Right now, he's actually an Emmy Award-winning animation director, so that's neat.
Oh, that's really cool.
Dan Green exists. I think he's still working in the industry, but I could not find any interesting information to add.
Damn you, Green brothers.
Michael Higgins probably also existed, but if he did more than that, I don't know that much about that either.
I mean, Dan Green
got to him. One moment, atop a New York City rooftop. The next, the X-Men emerge from the Stargate into an alien landscape.
Stop using Stargates.
They did this before Stargate existed. Fuck you. So stop it. The journey is near instant. Only a brief moment as they're cast across the universe, and yet Jean, now the Phoenix, hears the thoughts of each of her teammates as if they are her own. Scott worries if Jean even has room for him in her life anymore. Kurt lives for the new adventure laid out before them. Logan anticipates the upcoming scrap. Sean spares a moment for a brief prayer. Buddy, don't go into a fight talking about your girl back home. You're setting yourself up for a bad fate. Piotr muses over his desire to help people, and Aurora feels her friend's vibrance and distance. They emerge into the dusty, dead ruins of an empty city, bathed in the light of a giant pink crystal mounted atop a pedestal.
Where no X-Man has gone before.
True.
Haven't we already done this particular gag at least once by now?
Don't remember. If they were hoping for a moment to catch their breaths, though, they had another thing coming. Eric and Lilandra are indeed still in sight, and he holds her prisoner atop the pedestal. But he's not alone. No, instead a whole cast of characters stand assembled at the base of the pedestal, along with another figure atop it. I guess Eric didn't bother to let them in on the fact that he had trouble hot on his tail because they're all fucking surprised.
Aliens!
Arrogant ass. Aliens constantly swing around Space Tucky, gonna fuck around and find out. You might recognize one of these people, Gladiator there with the mohawk.
Oh,
he looks familiar, right?
Yeah, I recognize that weirdo.
But nobody decides to start swinging just yet.
Wow, such restraint.
Yeah, luckily the aliens and the Earthmen can understand each other, so we don't have to Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra our way through
Wow,
this.
That's a reference. We're going deep for that one.
Scott cuts straight to the point like, we're the X-Men, and we're here for Lilandra. And Gladiator, head of the Imperial Guard, is like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. She's a traitor, and we got her now, so na-na-na-na-boo-boo.
And we'll take her.
But Sight doesn't exactly plan to just turn around and head home after all this trouble, so he blasts someone that isn't Gladiator for some reason.
I'm gonna shoot someone else until you give me her.
And then all hell cuts loose. As the X-Men jump into the battle, Scott hangs behind for a moment, defending a still staggered Jean after their distant journey across the universe. Meanwhile, the Imperial Guard finally managed to get their feet back underneath them. The X-Men are a well-trained, well-coordinated fighting force, but you have to know a group called the Imperial Guard aren't exactly going to be a bunch of bumbling oafs.
Be kind of funny if they were.
One of them, called Hobgoblin, shapeshifts into some kind of big monster called a Barachan Shovel Beast, assumedly because this motherfucker's underbite got him out here looking like a fucking front loader.
Wow, that's a mouth. That is a mouth.
And Piotr's like, yeah, I'm gonna fight that thing. And Kurt's like, wait, you dumb himbo, you can't take it. Well, by that time, Colossus is already Leroy Jenkins his way into the fight.
He's not really a planner on this sort of thing.
No, he just charges in like a cannonball. Nightcrawler's not out of ideas, though. He uses his image inducer to make himself look like another, even bigger front-loader monster.
Good job! I didn't even know you could do that.
And he charges into the fight. It's enough to mess up Hobgoblin's concentration, and he shifts back into his normal form.
In which he can be punched.
Before Howdy has another chance to shift back, Kurt gets him in the jaw with the left hook, and it's lights out for Hobgoblin.
He's having so much fun.
Meanwhile, Wolverine's gunning it for an alien babe called Oracle. Usually, she'd fall back on her mental powers, but they're not doing anything to stop him. Another member of the Imperial Guard, Starbolt, flies to her defense. He deep fries Wolverine, blasting him with the flame, though not killing him.
All he really did was remove his clothes?
Yep, he burnt his clothes off, and Oracle then laughs at the stupid human. And then Wolverine throws her by the tit at her boyfriend before turning to swing on the Imperial Guard's resident werewolf.
I'm a little surprised he didn't just start killing people.
Apparently he was also showing some restraint.
Yeah.
He did throw somebody by the boob, but you know.
But he could have put his claws through their chest.
Could have put his claws through that boob. Atop the pedestal, Emperor Deken overlooks his handiwork, along with Shikari and a hostage Lilandra. She pleads for her brother to put a stop to the chaos, but Deken has no intention of stopping now, on the verge of victory. He's here for the crystal, a source of unlimited power. That's when Lilandra's attention is drawn to a new horror creeping up behind her, wreathed in crackling energy, its enormous forked tongue tipped with 2 stingers.
Well, that's unpleasant.
Lilandra screams in horror at the face of the Soul Drinker.
Yum.
Scott, still standing steadfast at his girlfriend's side while she recovers, hears the scream, but there's fuck all he can do about it. He calls for Jean to help, but she's still too sapped to do anything about it. And yet again, it's Kurt to the rescue. In a poof of brimstone, Nightcrawler appears next to the princess, chained and frozen in fear. She begs Kurt to get away while he has a chance, but he's not exactly the kind to leave a damsel to her distress like that.
What? I'm shocked. Kurt, not the type to leave someone in distress?
Particularly a pretty lady.
Yeah.
As the fearsome beast closes in, he pulls against the wall shackle with all of his might, finally snapping the chain. Which is bad news for the Emperor.
Also, I don't think he's, that strong.
I guess he got it pretty good. Who knows what he did. This is one of those kinds of deals where the thing was summoned here and is not going to leave until it gets its tongue on some souls.
Ah, so it may eat someone else.
Right. Now, you would think Deken would not be all that picky about who it got at that point, so long as they were able to send it back, but no, he's still fixated on his sister, and demands that his men make sure the Soul Drinker only gets to her.
That may not be something that anyone can arrange.
And so, some octopus robot-looking motherfucker slithers into their path, leaving Kurt and a still petrified Lilandra with nowhere to go. The Soul Drinker rears back its tongue to strike, and at the last moment, Kurt grabs hold of Lilandra and bamfs the 2 of them out of its path. I guess the robot alien must have been a dude, because the Soul Drinker drinks its soul and promptly fucks off.
Well, yeah, it had a soul.
Yep.
Well, go figure.
Down below, a winded Kurt and Lilandra reappear in a puff of smoke. He's not used to teleporting with other people, and it really took it out of him. Cyclops then demands Lilandra tell him what the hell is going on here, and so she begins to explain. At some point in the not-so-distant past, Deken heard about this crystal, and after finding its location, the Emperor announced his plans to acquire the fearsome weapon to some council. But when Lilandra heard of the plan, she stood up against it, and Deken then had her arrested. But that wasn't the end of it.
Of course not.
See, Lilandra's not just some member of the royal family you can just shove away in some tower. She's actually the Grand Admiral of the fucking Imperial Fleet. So once the word got out, the army fractured in 2.
Ooh, dear.
While the Empire dissolved into civil war, Deken had his sister bundled away to the planet of the crystal, wanting to make sure she died seeing him victorious.
This feels like a bad plan.
So I guess that's what he's been hanging on the whole time, rather than just taking the crystal. Anyway, this whole thing has been about revenge. So it would seem.
This is a bad plan.
Lilandra managed to free herself on that, and then and escape on that familiar scout ship. But that's when she intercepted a strong blast of goodwill beaming out across the galaxy. And that's when she first felt Charles, as he fought off the Xenox with the goodwill of the human people.
Goodwill that is almost certainly not his. This is Charles we're talking about.
And so she made for Earth, hoping that he could help. Once the Emperor got wind of what she was up to, though, he called one of his planted spies on Earth, activating him to thwart Lilandra's plans.
Wait, he just had a spy on Earth?
I don't know why you'd be surprised about that.
Just a little surprised anyone would plant spies in space, Tucky.
Too dangerous.
They're more likely to get eaten or something. Someone's gonna find out and then turn them into gumbo.
He's made of tough stuff, so I guess he's got himself covered. And so started Eric's efforts. Kill Charles Xavier, there's nowhere else for Lilandra to run. And so you see, all these silly stories have been going somewhere. It was all part of Eric's plan.
Okay, but there's one thing that they haven't really answered.
Yeah?
Why did he steal Scott's former alter ego?
No idea. That one has not been answered. I guess maybe he thought, okay, nobody has seen this guy for a while, so, like, nobody's going to call me out on this.
So if I just become him, it's cool, right?
And I'll have, like, instant built-in cred.
Sure. That's better than anything I've got.
So now he's got a general handle on the backstory. Cyclops still doesn't really get where all this is going. And so Lilandra finally explains about the Umkran crystal. Supposedly a gateway to ultimate power. Once in a million years, and a whole bunch of Star Wars movies later, 9 Death Stars align and the gateway opens.
Okay.
As she explains, Gladiator closes in, declaring that the princess has no right to stop him from doing it. He's the Emperor. To which Lilandra's like, does it matter if he's gonna kill everybody? And Gladiator's like, nope, you swore an oath.
It doesn't matter if he kills everyone. The Emperor can kill everyone if he wants. That's because he's the Emperor.
If the Emperor asks you to jump, you ask how high.
And if he asks you to jump off a bridge, you say, thank you, sir.
We haven't touched on these guys yet, this issue, but another group monitors the fracas from afar.
Oh, hey.
Captain Christopher and his crew weigh their options. The X-Men are running out of time to stop the Emperor, and the fight isn't going so well for them. If he and his crew move to help, they're going to be locked into the fight, but if they do nothing, it could mean the end of everything. Captain Corsair decides he has to stop the Emperor. He's going to go, but he allows each member of the crew to make their own choice. Fuck you, his name's not Chode.
Yes, it is.
His name's not fucking Chode, there's no E there. Fuck you.
Ah, but there's an apostrophe. So...
That doesn't mean that you are allowed... If I see the letters O-D, I don't decide to pronounce them Ode. I pronounce it odd.
Chewed.
Chod.
Chod. Chode.
Not chode. That's not a thing. Fuck you, die.
Chode.
Fuck you, die. Anyway, he allows each member of the crew to make up their own choice, and one by one they agree. Cha'ad, Hepzibah, and Raza. The crew's medic, Sikorsky, stays behind on the ship, readying its med bay to treat any injured.
Why is there a member called Sikorsky?
Because Chris really likes planes.
Okay, fair.
The X-Men fight valiantly, but they're outnumbered and really starting to feel the squeeze the Imperial Guard's putting on them. Logan emerges from his hidden scrap with the werewolf man, conveniently named Fang, by one of his peers, Astra. He's no longer naked, having stolen Fang's clothes.
Yeah, hey, Logan! What did you do? Logan, what did you do?
Imagine the rash of shit Fang's gonna get from his coworkers when they meet up after the battle and he's just bruised, naked, and embarrassed.
I'm starting to wonder, are the bruises gonna tell a story?
Gladiator seizes Lilandra, ignoring her desperate attempts to get him to listen. Psyche turns her way, but is faced with yet another unnamed member of the Imperial Guard with a tiny little fishbowl head who starts talking some shit before both fucking Mysterio here and Cyclops blast one another unconscious.
Oh shit, they both have eye punching.
They both have beams. Excellent. leaving the princess to continue to try to fend off Guardian on her own. Apparently, the pair were even once close, maybe betraying the source of some of his anger a bit.
Ooh.
She pleads that she's trying to save the Empire, that in the language of the M'Kraan Crystal's creators, it is named the end of all that is. Suddenly, Guardian is blasted off his feet. But it's not Cyclops back awake. Instead, Corsair and the Starjammers. I really love the dedication to the pirate aesthetic with the laser flintlock pistols.
Oh my god, they are!
It's fucking awesome.
Enter a legend. Well, that's true. Only a legend would come in with laser flintlocks.
It's dedication to the aesthetic, for sure. Did you really love Treasure Planet? 'Cause I really loved Treasure Planet.
I mean, I didn't really experience Treasure Planet until more recently, but it is a pretty neat movie.
It's one of my movies I watch when I feel sick. Lilandra is relieved at the rescue, though Hepzibah makes it clear that they're not exactly her biggest fans either, even if they are on her side here and now.
They have a Catgirl.
Yep, they have a Catgirl.
Actually, I think she's more of a skunk girl, but still.
No, she's a Catgirl.
Oh shit, she's a full-on Catgirl.
She's a full-on Catgirl. We have a Catgirl here.
Yeah,
in
like
X-Men now.
she's like traditional, stereotypical almost.
You know, like Nya.
Yeah, like Nya.
As the Starjammers enter the fray, they change the mathematics of the fight and turn back the tide of battle in favor of the X-Men. Piotr is confused about chode being able to speak English for some reason, despite everyone else here also helpfully being able to speak English.
He's just kind of incompetent.
He's a big ol' himbo. And just like that, the Imperial Guard lay defeated on the ground. Chode takes a jovial moment to acquaint himself with several of the X-Men, but unfortunately, despite having beaten the Guard, they're not out of this yet. Remember, we still have 9 Death Stars left to blow up.
Right. Way more Death Stars than Star Wars has. Therefore, better than Star Wars. Yes?
Faster, harder, more intense.
Yes. So 9 Death Stars in X-Men, 1 Death Star in Star Wars at this point.
You're getting more bang for your buck here.
You're getting more Death Stars for your dollar.
Cyclops takes a moment to thank Corsair for his intervention. But when he responds with Earth Slang, something about it sets off Jean's suspicions. She mind scans old Chris and is entirely caught off guard by what she finds. His guard defeated, Emperor Deken still stands on top of the pedestal, taunting the group. Hepzibah then threatens to eat the Emperor because he's a bird person and she's a cat person.
Hepzibah? That's, I realize that's not cannibalism, but
It is frowned upon.
He's gonna make a really big hairball.
That definitely gets to Ken's hackles raised, and he snaps back to remind her that the Empire enslaved her people anyway, despite being bird people.
My guy, that's not going to make Hepzibah want to kill you less.
I don't think he cares, even though the entire Imperial Guard said, where the fuck is Eric? Eric just disappeared. I guess he's pretty good at knowing when to get gone.
Guess. He's good. He's fine. It's cool.
He's gonna be in a lot of shit, though, if the Emperor wins this whole scrap. Unless it destroys the world. You know. They're not gonna be able to do anything to stop him, though, because at that moment, the 9 Death Stars align, pouring energy into the massive crystal.
Oh god, these really are just Death Stars, huh?
No, they're not. I think they're just... they're called Mystic Stars at some point.
Well, yeah, because someone called them on it.
This didn't come... Remember, this is all coming out in 1977, which is the year Star Wars came out.
I know, but George...
It isn't even out at this point.
God.
Though, to be fair, the novelization had been released at that point. Blah, 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 blah,
and
blah,
I
blah,
wouldn't
blah,
be surprised if our beloved nerd, Chris Claremont, had already read it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he'd probably rip on it. Though he might riff on it. The crystal glows, pulses, and then explodes. And the universe briefly blinks out of existence before snapping back in.
You gotta hit it sometimes when the universe goes out.
Ha! So how do we want to rate this one?
You're just gonna ignore the Fantastic Four at the end?
Well, we'll get back to the Fantastic Four when we come back around, so I mentioned them later.
Okay.
Peter Corbeau, it's fine to note, Peter Corbeau picks up on what the fuck just happened when he's hanging out on the Starcorp station, so I guess he's not, like, facing any consequences for that whole hijacked space shuttle thing or whatever the fuck happened.
It's fine. Sometimes you hijack a space shuttle.
And he's talking to Reed, and Reed is flipping the fuck out about the situation. Okay, now how do we want to rate this issue?
That was pretty good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like a little bit of a deep dive on why Wolverine is now wearing another man's clothes. Like,
they fought, and he made him take his clothes off.
No, I'm going with the
like
voice I'm going with the voice in the background that said they fucked.
No.
Yes.
They did not. They didn't fuck. Anyway, no, continue.
They yiffed. The Wolverine and the Wolfman yiffed.
So any distant input or anything we're reacting to is Candace in the other room being a shithead. That's okay. I love it.
It's a direct quote. Being a shithead is a direct quote.
Yep. So what would we rate it at?
I don't know, 3, 4, something out of 5.
Yeah, I'm good with 4.
This is pretty good, considering...
It's all tied together well into a fairly coherent plot. All of this is now facing one direction.
Although,
we've kind of reached the apex.
The thing that would drive me nuts is knowing, oh god, this was like, what, 15 pages?
20 pages.
Okay, 20 pages. Ish. This is 20 pages.
It's actually a little more because we have the extra additions.
It's 20 pages, and now you have to wait 2 months for the next one.
God, I know, right?
Oh god, the universe just blinked out of existence for a second, and it's fine. It's fine. We're cool. We're cool, right?
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that, you know? We'll come back to the whole universe blowing up thing. 2 months, we'll be back.
Yeah, 2 months. It's fine.
Well, let us move along to the B story from Classic X-Men 14 from July of 1987. Written by Chris Claremont, pencils and inks by John Bolton, colored by Glynis Wein, and lettered by Tom Orzechowski.
I don't actually want this bit to end, because if I know it for sure it's not that John Bolton, it's not going to be fun anymore. But even though I'm pretty sure it's not that John Bolton, I kind of want it to be that John Bolton, because then you have John Bolton, the conservative political security guy?
That is the national security advisor.
National security advisor. That's what he was. I couldn't remember exactly what he was. And then you have this John Bolton, who is a comic artist.
I won't let you know the truth, so I don't spoil the magic.
Good. Okay, so what do we have for the B story?
Lilandra isn't a woman well suited to the life of a royal. She hates the sliminess, all the dishonesty, disloyalty of politics in the royal nest.
Oh no, she's a good person. That's bad.
And so she found her way instead to the military. And it gave her that ability to wander the stars and see other cultures. But as a royal, she is always, unfortunately, bound to the throne. And so fate has caught up with her, now that she stands prisoner, being ferried along to her execution. Before her hangs in the air a hologram of her brother, taunting her. He gives her the option to bend the knee and kiss the ring, though, offering instead to exile her like her sister Deathbird.
Really? Deathbird?
That's her name.
We
got Daken,
Lilandra,
and Deathbird.
So I guess your dad kind of ran out of names, huh?
Lilandra refuses the offer, arguing about the danger of his plan. But Daken sees himself as Emperor of the Shi'ar, like a god. If he destroys the universe, then it is his to destroy. All of a sudden, the prison ship comes under attack. It seems the Pathfinders, troops loyal to the princess, have tracked her here and come to her rescue. The attack cripples the ship, leaving it a sitting duck with no shields or weapons to speak of. And while the crew is occupied with the damage to the ship and their own casualties, Lilandra has gotten loose, attacking her captors. It's now or never, and so Lilandra makes for the scout ship, hoping to reach her allies once more. She escapes just as the prison ship explodes, making contact shortly afterward with the forces wrapped in battle above the planet's surface. As the battle rages, suddenly the princess is racked in pain, overwhelmed by the imagery of a life of a man entirely foreign to her. Charles Xavier and his X-Men in their battle against the Xenauts, and despite herself, she lowers her mental shields, drinking it in. When Lilandra comes to, she's entirely disoriented. It's difficult to determine what is her and what is Charles Xavier.
Ugh.
The two are entirely tangled together, Charles wondering in confusion at his surroundings and his body, and Lilandra fully aware of the answers to the questions. Charles seems the dominant of the two minds for the moment, but when he catches a glimpse of himself on the ship's porthole, he's baffled to be greeted with Lilandra's face.
Oh boy.
And suddenly they're jump-scared as a corpse, spaced in the battle, drifts past the ship, the very man Lilandra was just on the comms with, Perry. For just a moment, Lilandra, in her shock, becomes the dominant mind, exclaiming in shock and horror to her gods, Shara and Kathiri. But Charles doesn't recognize those names. And then the confusion reaches even the physical level, as Lilandra can no longer control her legs. She fights her way through the anti-gravity, floating herself along to the medbay to get the truth about her legs. There's nothing physically wrong with her, though. The princess sees her own face enmeshed with that of the stranger, and finally is able to get some clarity. It's another mind. She finally gets the picture of who he is, and suddenly feels an overwhelming kinship with Charles Xavier. And despite herself, she's fallen madly in love with the man.
Lilandra? Lilandra! I know this man. He's bad. Either you're bad, or you have bad taste. I'm sorry.
Furiously, she lashes out at the medbay around her, striking the screen again and again at the loss of control. And if she was worried about loss of control then, what about now when the screen explodes, blasting Lilandra across the scout ship?
Well, she's in the right place to get healed.
Yep, she survives it, and since no one has been naked a while, she then decides to clean up in the shower. Hoping to clear her mind and put more of the pieces together. She's astounded at the power it would take for Charles to broadcast the goodwill of an entire planet across the galaxy. Still, she turns from love instead to duty. There's her brother to stop and a war to win. But when she suits up and looks out the window, to her horror, she finds the battle over. All of her troops dead. The war lost. They'd bet it all on freeing their princess. She weeps at the implications, the end of all that is. And then she seizes on one last hope in Charles Xavier and his X-Men, and heads for Earth, seeking his aid.
And then she puts on a very silly hat.
But it's fine because she already has a very silly shaped head.
I don't know how to feel about that story. I feel like I'm too biased against Charles Xavier.
I don't know, I think it's interesting. It's very interesting flavor to add.
It is.
It kind of gives us a little more about the Shi'ar.
It is, and my bias comes from the future.
Yep, I'm gonna say 3 stars. It was a comic.
It's decent. I've got baggage that I'm bringing here that doesn't actually belong in the 80s yet.
Alright, so we're gonna have to get a little weird here, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
Right here at the apex of this long, intertwined story arc, on a potentially massive, universe-ending cliffhanger,
They did a dumb.
Dave Cockrum missed a deadline.
Oh.
Apparently he took on another issue of another book on short notice and didn't have time to get out both. And so we get an emergency backup issue. But the thing is, it really fucks up the flow of the story, so what we're going to do is get back to it next time.
That's a weird cover.
And what we're going to read tonight is X-Men 107 from July of 1977, written by Chris Claremont, penciled by Dave Cockrum, inked by Dan Green, colored by Andy Yankus, and lettered by Joe Rosen. As we do, we're using the classic X-Men version, so we're featuring some pages with pencils by John Byrne and Chuck Patton, inks by Terry Austin, colors by Michelle Robinson, and letters by Denise Wohl. So that's a lot of new names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. John Byrne, Terry Austin, and Denise Wohl. That's good on the list. John Byrne is what you would call kind of a big deal.
Ooh.
Writing, penciling, inking, lettering, he's done it all. He's co-creator on tons of characters, he's in the Eisner Hall of Fame. That said, he's kind of a dick. He proudly proclaimed himself a happy cog in the machine, calling out Jack Kirby for feeling like he didn't get as much credit for all the characters and works he co-created with Stan. He talked shit about Roy Thomas at some comic book convention and damn near got sued for it.
Oh boy.
He's publicly espoused several unsavory beliefs, including some anti-trans stuff.
Ooh.
So, John's important, but he's kind of a dick.
Important, but cringe.
Yeah. Terry Austin, on the other hand, is kind of a local boy. He's from Detroit.
Hey!
Rob Liefeld stated his inks to be one of his inspirations, so you got that going on, Terry. Aren't you proud?
Oh no! Oh no! You are responsible for Rob Liefeld! How could you?
Terry is apparently also a big Popeye fan and is known to sneak drawings of Popeye the Sailor Man into comics he's working on.
So what you're saying is, without Popeye, that Rob Liefeld might not have happened.
It all happened because Terry Austin ate a spinach.
We have to go back in time and end Popeye from happening in the first place.
Denise Wohl created her own comic book company and then created a comic book series about Kabbalah, so that's interesting.
Huh. That actually is interesting.
It is. I couldn't find all that much to follow up on it, though to be fair, I didn't look all that deep. I was like, that was something to do.
That's different.
Yeah. The X-Men stand on the surface of this lonely world, checking out the light show in the sky around the crystal now that the universe has blinked back into existence.
Someone wanged on the machine on the outside.
Corsair has Chode call back to the ship for a sensor scan on the crystal. And Wolverine, despite being all pissed off when Scott called them back to New York without kicking Magneto's ass, all of a sudden wants to be anywhere but here, to which Lilandra points out you can't exactly run from the end of all that is.
You can try.
And then Scott fills the X-Men in on what's been going on up to this point, giving Chris a convenient time to summarize last issue, since it was 4 fucking months ago, David!
Yeah, and I thought we were having an inconsistent release schedule. Ooh.
Back home, the event hasn't gone unobserved. Back on Starcore's station, Peter Corbeau reports what he knows about what's going on to a video bank of VIPs, including the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and President Jimmy Carter.
Oh, that's who that is!
Yep, but what he knows isn't all that much, just that if the world blinks like that again, it could be the end of everything.
So we just gotta sit and watch and hope we don't all stop existing.
I sure hope it stops.
Yeah, it'd be great if it stops. Nothing we can do, sorry.
The news hits heavily with the superheroes, a scared Jan seeking comfort in Hank's arms.
Wow, Hank Pym being comforting? This clearly isn't his book.
Scott finishes the field briefing with the X-Men and Starjammers, when suddenly a voice calls down in greeting to the group. Both Corsair and Cyclops turn as one to its source, causing Jean to feel a brief pang of guilt, unsure how to tell her boyfriend what she found when mind-scanning the Starjammers.
I mean, I know what she found, but in this case, it's not because of the cartoon. I also know because I've read comics.
Yep. The voice introduces itself as Joff, the guardian of the M'Kraan crystal, and so long as the portal within the crystal remains open, no one will be allowed inside. Wolverine goes forward to challenge Jeff, despite Scott's warnings, and Jeff decks Wolverine clear into orbit, though the Starjammer is quick to react and bring him in alive.
Oh, don't worry, he'll be fine. He's Wolverine.
Jeff then continues beating the rest of the X-Men and the Starjammers. Even after Chode offers that they'll just leave, Jeff says his programming won't allow it, implying, I guess, that he's some kind of artificial construct of the crystal. Which I guess makes sense. Phoenix then hits him with a meteor.
I mean, this is turning into Dragonball Z. I'm not even kidding.
Well, that continues because it didn't leave a dent in Jeff.
Yep,
so
yep.
It's back to
we are
fighting.
officially in Dragonball Z now. It's weird.
Cyclops orders Aurora to whip up a storm to cover their retreat, but Banshee sees his opportunity and takes it. If this is a computer, maybe a good sonic scream will scramble its circuits. So he flies up and screams in Jeff's face, and that does him in.
Seriously?
Yep. The X-Men close in on their friend, congratulating him for a scream well screamed.
Well, Banshee, you did something useful.
Mod, the second guardian of the M'Kraan crystal, heartily agrees that Sean did a good job, and then proceeds to explain that he's 1,000 times stronger than Jeff, and there's another guardian 1,000 times stronger than him in this bizarre Russian nesting doll of guardians.
Oh my god, I hate the Ginyu Force.
Dekan then reminds everyone that I am also still on the pedestal, which you would think that Jeff would have had something to say about that, but I guess not. Mod similarly does not seem to care, but Raza does. After another blinking of existence, Raza charges over to the Emperor, picking him up high overhead before hurling him bodily at the crystal.
Stop messing with the universe! Some of us live there!
Suddenly the fight ends. The world goes quiet and still around them as the X-Men find themselves in an unfamiliar alien city. Jane then explains that this city is within the crystal. The Guardians are only supposed to keep people out. They don't care what happens once you're in.
Huh.
She then approaches a giant glowing sphere, the heart of the crystal, calling out for her. She reaches out, touching the sphere's surface, turning transparent. A moment later, the sphere reacts, blasting beams out of the assembled group, filling their minds with nightmares. Dekan, now facing the Soul Drinker, turned upon him. Nightcrawler, hunted and killed by his friends. Corsair crying out over the body of his murdered wife. For a moment, Jean too is affected, taunted by the specter of death.
Ooh boy.
But after a moment's thought, she's no longer scared. She's already faced death and come out the other side. And so now, she's okay. Who isn't okay is Scott, facing his own nightmare of being unable to control his eyes. She cries out for him, and when he turns, the blast shoots straight through Jean.
For a moment, I thought he killed her.
No, but here inside the crystal, she's been rendered ephemeral. She hits him with a brain blast to knock him out and stop the blasting, but before he goes Betty by, Scott's errant blasts hit the sphere.
Oh no. Oh no. What did he do?
Cracks begin to spiderweb across its surface, and Jean follows her senses, entering the sphere in her phoenix form. What she finds is a load of gobbledygook.
Okay.
Inside the crystal is the sphere, and inside the sphere is a neutron galaxy. The sphere, the latticework that keeps it contained.
Those sure are words.
Her mind casts forward across time, seeing what will be. Should the lattice fail, the neutron galaxy would be uncontained, drawing all mass in the universe into itself before exploding into new creation. And so Jean does her best to hold it together, but it's not enough. She's weakening, fading away to nothing. But Aurora comes to her side, offering herself as Jean's anchor to reality. Her way to keep real enough to keep fighting the disintegrating lattice. But Jean turns her down, explaining that it's Storm's very life force she offers.
She's not willing to sacrifice
Yep.
Aurora. This just got really gay.
Yep.
Like, first the self-sacrifice, then the refusal of the self-sacrifice, because I can't lose you. Not you.
Not even just that, Storm's life force isn't even going to be enough to maintain the lattice. She then turns to Major Christopher Summers, asking him to take her hand.
Ah, yes, we can sacrifice you.
No, she does take Aurora's, but she also needs his help. Corsair's caught off guard, but does briefly take her hand.
Probably because he wasn't expecting to be called that.
Yeah, he was not expecting the name drop. She caught him off guard.
Name and rank. Ooh boy.
Jean then lets go of both hands, telling Corsair Scott's identity. As Jean plunges once more into the depths of the sphere, Summers weeps, cradling his long-lost son in his arms.
Well, that was not how I expected him to find out about that.
She's one with reality. The future, the past, the present, her friends, the crystal, weaving her love for them into the very lattice of the sphere. Even that doesn't seem to be enough. She begins to fall into despair when even her efforts aren't holding back the breach. But then her friends come to help, offering their own strength. Just gonna read this because Chris is a wordy motherfucker and this is very flowery prose. The power sings within her. Suddenly, miraculously, nothing seems beyond her grasp, and as she re-energizes the shield matrix, it's as if a door opens wide before her. A new pattern forms, shaped like the mystic tree of life, with Xavier its lofty crown and Colossus its base. Each X-Man has a place, each a purpose bigger than him or herself. Below Colossus, beneath the foundation, the dream that sustains them all, Xavier's dream of a world where mutant and human will live in peace. And lastly, the heart of the tree, the catalyst that binds these wayward souls together, is Phoenix. Tiphareth, child of the sun, child of life, the vision of the harmony of things.
Did she just partially reshape the universe in the image of her friends?
Kind of. It was more what was containing the neutron galaxy, but she did save it with the power of friendship.
Okay, yes, this is Dragonball Z still.
And with that it is done, the sphere intact once more. But in all of the power and glory of her deeds, something has been unlocked.
Uh-oh.
That nagging feeling of her thrill over the power made manifest in another version of herself, twisted and sinister. Phoenix blasts her doppelganger before toppling out of the crystal and right into Scott's arms.
Kill your double.
When he asks why she didn't follow right after them, Jean can't seem to remember what just happened. But she's well enough to fire up the Stargate and send them home, leaving Lilandra and the Starjammers in their rearview mirror. When they emerge, Firelord is waiting for them, but not to fight. He actually bothered to get an explanation for what the fuck just happened, and promptly chilled the fuck out.
Ah.
He just stuck around to watch over the Stargate. We gotta keep this space Chucky shit on lockdown. We cannot risk it escaping.
We can't just have things coming in.
We cannot break quarantine.
We can't break containment. If we breach containment, who knows what's gonna happen.
A moment later, though, the gate reactivates once more, and Lilandra steps through, explaining that she's in kind of a legal mess for the moment. Duquesne has now fully lost his mind, so he can't govern anymore. Lilandra just did a rebellion, so she's not exactly in the law's good graces at this moment. So while the High Council smooths things out, Lilandra's going to stay here on Earth, finally united with Charles.
Hey, it's a good place to stay. If they can take on Galactus, probably no one's gonna fuck with them.
Probably. So how would you rate that?
Is this the first time that I think we've read something that might actually be worthy of a 5 out of 5?
I don't know that I'd say it's the first time, but I agree. I think it all tied up really nicely.
I think that actually is worth, for at least for me, from me, I think this might be the first thing we've run into that might actually be worthy of a 5 out of 5. Also, Dave Cockrum says I'm not dead at the end.
Yeah. He'll never return.
Oh, God.
I don't know if he actually does. I think they were pretty mad about what happened. Let's close out with the B story from Classic X-Men 15, written by Chris Claremont, pencils and inks by John Bolton, colors by Petra Scotesi, and lettered by Tom Orzechowski. Once upon a time, Christopher Summers dreamt of the stars, drinking in the works of the sci-fi greats and swashbucklers, longing to be among their heroes. He found his way to space, but perhaps he should have been more careful what he asked for. Now he stands in tattered rags, hefting crystals piled into a basket on his back as he toils before alien slave masters. A ruckus erupts from a nearby corridor, and Hepzibah emerges from its depths, 2 more men running after her, declaring her a runaway and a rebel. Not watching where she's going, she runs smack dab into Chris, sending both sprawling. The guards are quick to scoop the cat lady up, tossing Summers carelessly to the side.
Wait. No. Claremont, did you just name Scott's dad after yourself?
Right? I sit there and I think it's like, of all the fucking characters to name after yourself, you're gonna name Scott's deadbeat dad?
So, he's a deadbeat space pirate, but he's also Scott's dad.
I think we can also, if we're going to sit here and say this is projection by Chris, look at the fact that he dreams of swashbucklers and sci-fi stories.
Yeah.
He's a pilot who flies planes. He's everything Chris wants to be, except for probably the deadbeat dad part, but you know.
But the thing is, he crashed and burned. He didn't get to where he wanted to be. He ended up somewhere else.
Except he eventually did.
He did, but not in the way he expected.
Yep.
He flew too high.
The larger of the two attackers punches Hepzibah in the face as he explains the night's festivities where he plans to eat her alive.
Oh boy, that's festivities, I guess.
A whole different kind of combo meal here, part execution, part dinner time.
You're just gonna eat her? You're not even gonna cook her?
Nope.
Wow.
Chris meekly protests from the side that they can't. But even that timid protest is enough to get the guards to turn their attention on him, wrapping him in the coils of a neurolash, a special kind of whip that causes extreme pain without causing any physical harm.
Oh, fun! They're really horrible people on top of having forced labor.
Exactly. Well, they did have forced labor. I don't know why you were expecting good people.
No, but they're worse than they could be. They don't have to be this bad. But no, they're worse.
When the power's finally turned off, Chris's screams cease, and he just lies groaning on the ground. The guard then intimidates him not to cause any more trouble before walking away with Hepzibah, their captive. Christopher weeps at what he's become, so far from what he once was. He thinks back to how it all went so wrong. Flying home with his young family from a trip to visit his parents in Alaska, and a trip he'd painstakingly restored, an old de Havilland mosquito. A young Scott is excited to hear about his dad's selection for the space program.
Mm-hmm.
It's a happy snapshot of a moment, and then it all changed. Suddenly, an alien ship cuts through the sky, opening fire.
What is it doing in the skies over the Earth?
Summers is an amazing pilot, but it's a fucking alien spaceship.
And that's a de Havilland comet, not exactly a dogfighter.
Yeah, it is a comet, you're right. I said a mosquito, but it was a comet. Soon the plane starts coming to pieces. Never a good thing. Catherine straps Scott into the only parachute in the plane, urging him to hold on to his brother. And then the boys are gone. It's a long trip down to Earth for the pair. Christopher and Kate are teleported onto the ship just in time to see the flaming debris catch the parachute of the boys on fire and to see them plunge toward the ground.
Rip them. We'll never know who they were.
It seems the Emperor wanted to add some Earthlings to his zoo, and hey, these ones were already packaged up nicely in the air. How much more convenient could you get? It's takeout.
It is.
They're already in a doggy bag. But the Emperor instead decided he had other plans for Kate, wanting instead to add her to his harem. Corsair wasn't having any of that, and somehow armed himself with a sword, trying to protect her. And so Duquesne killed Kate, sentencing Corsair to the mining world he now inhabits.
Oh boy. So fate's worse than what he already was dealing with. Fun.
Slowly his hope died, and he disappeared into himself, simply working as ordered to, not thinking of the past or the future. But Hepzibah, her passion, her fightiness awoke something in him, something long sleeping. He's startled from this reawakening by a hulking green figure.
Who looks way more disturbing than he did.
Yeah, he looks much scarier here. It is Chode, along with Raza, and they're asking after Hepzibah. But Chris, he doesn't want trouble. He didn't see anything. Gotta work. Raza and Chode discuss among themselves what to do. Raza knows he's lying, and Chode is sympathetic, picking up on the after effects of the neurolash. Raza thinks Summers will go to the guards if they leave him alive, also considering it to be something of a mercy killing at this point anyway. Chris begins to regather the crystals into his basket, even as he listens to the pair debating his murder. They decide not to kill him, even though Raza thinks he's been reduced to merely a grub at this point. Something that leaves Christopher utterly distraught, and once the pair are gone, he cries out in despair. Later, it seems Raza's predictions are playing out, as Christopher Summers approaches the guards. Hepzibah hangs bound against the wall as the guards sit gathered around a table. Raza and chode see it happening from the shadows, but there's not much they can do about it at this point. But chode thinks something else might be going on here anyway. The guards definitely don't, though. They pay Chris no mind as he walks up to the table, a blade in hand.
Yeah, that's kind of standing out here.
And then it's go time. He stabs the guard who lashed him right in the back before stealing his whip.
That's fair.
But before he can use it, another lash snares around his legs, leaving him helpless as another guard dives at him. Chode and Raza intervene, though, and Chris gets to work trying to free Hepzibah. Once she's freed, Hepzibah licks at his wounds, declaring them life-bonded. Comrades for life.
Oh!
They then discuss the grim future here in the mines. Eventually, the guards are going to catch up with them unless they can get out of there. And Corsair offers himself up as a pilot, asking to join them. And there the Starjammers were born. How do we want to rate that?
Pretty good, but Mr. Claremont, sir, I only really put it together now.
No, I've thought about this before. Why the fuck did you name Scott's deadbeat dad after yourself?
Well, because no matter what, he's still Scott's dad, and Scott is the heart of the X-Men.
And he's also a space pirate, and he's got a hot cat babe.
Uh-huh. He does. He has all the things Mr. Claremont clearly desires.
All the things a 14-year-old boy could dream about.
And the things that a 14-year-old boy turned adult comic creator would put in a comic. If he
Chris
never
is pretty young too.
Especially if he never lost all his interests from being 14.
So anyway, we are.
I mean, that was pretty good though.
At
least a 4, considering. Although I do think him crying out "No!" That's
a bit much.
That could have just been like, it would have been better as a wordless scream, but sure, why not? I guess it was the style of the time.
It was alright. I think I'm at about a 3.5. It's not as good as some of the backstory
No.
shit we've gotten.
No.
So I guess I'm spoiled.
Yeah.
Also, chode is really, really scary looking.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's we've gone from
He's out here looking like fucking Pennywise, but as a fucking alien right now.
we went from what? Let's go. I'm going all the way back
Yep.
because I need to see silly chode.
Chode. Let's
see.
Where the fuck is he? God damn.
You're here somewhere, you fuck.
You motherfucking green ass lizard looking motherfucker.
No, we've got other weirdo.
There he is. That's only his back. Go back another one. There he is.
See, he's just, come on.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a green guy with.
There's nothing little about him.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy.
Yeah, he's just a little guy.
He just looks like a dude. He doesn't have like some big scary ass looking red ass fucking face paint on.
Yeah, we've really upped the horror quotient for this man.
I don't like that at all. So yeah, that's good. 3.5.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be it for us this week. We are going to be back at you next week with Thor. So in the meantime, hit us up on the email. Email us about whatever the hell you want over at comicsplaining@gmail.com. We'll probably read it on the air. Hit us up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook. I don't know, maybe we should consider getting even more social medias now that Twitter may just fucking implode.
God, he really did. They added a lot to him. God. Chode, you weirdo!
Chode looks weird now and I don't like it. I will not call him Chode. I absolutely will not.
Too bad.
You do what you're gonna do. His name's not Chode. Fuck you. You can also join us over on Discord, which
does still exist.
And does have at least something to do with why this whole thing went all Bill O'Reilly at the front of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were talking about that in the Discord not all that long ago.
Bill.
Fuck it, we'll do it live!
Oh, right, not that Bill. But that's the Bill we got. Oh, no! That's the Bill we have at home.
if you want to see a video version of the show where you can see the true horror of chode in this last story here, you can join us over on YouTube, where we put out a video version of the show every week.
You can see a real chode.
Oh, fuck you. If you'd like to support the show, donate to us over on Patreon. We put out a bonus-ode. Just recently, we put out ours for November, covering Eminem and the Punisher in a fateful meetup. So subscribe to us over on Patreon if you want to see some of that. We also have a coffee if you just want to throw us a few bucks. But, like I said, we've also got that video version of the show over on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button, comment, do whatever you want.
And I bet you...
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, rate, subscribe. Anywhere, everywhere. We are everywhere. We are Legion. You are Legion. You are part of us. Spread our word.
And here I thought, and here I bet you thought I was posting Eminem stuff for no reason. Also, that was technically from Drill's book.
We're going to be back at you next week with Thor, and we look forward to talking to you then. Bye!
Bye!